and by the possibilities of wealth that it contained, and had perhaps a desire to keep it to myself as long as might be, so that I thought nothing of the two who were waiting for me at the well-mouth, till I was suddenly called back by the harsh voice of the turnkey, crying as before, "What are you doing? Have you found nothing?" "Yes," I shouted back, "I have found the treasure. You can pull me up." The words were scarcely out of my mouth before the bucket began to move, and I went up a great deal faster than I had gone down. Yet in that short journey other thoughts came to my mind, and I heard Grace's voice again, sweet and grave. "Have a care how you touch the treasure. It was evilly come by, and will bring a curse with it." At the same time I remembered how I had been led to the discovery of this jewel, first by Mr. Glennie's stories, second by my finding the locket, and third by Ratsey giving me the hint that the writing was a cipher, and so had come to the hiding-place without a swerve or stumble, and it seemed to me that I could not have reached it so straight without a leading hand. But whether good or evil, who should say? As I neared the top, I heard the turnkey urging the donkey to trot faster in the wheel, so that the bucket might rise the quicker. But just before my head was level with the ground, he set the brake on and fixed me where I was. I was glad to see the light again, and Elsevier's face looking kindly on me, but vexed to be brought up thus suddenly just when I was expecting to set foot on terra firma. The turnkey had stopped me through his covetous eagerness, so that he might get sooner at the jewel, and now he craned over the low parapet and reached out his hand to me, crying, "Where's the treasure? Where's the treasure? Give me the treasure!" I held the diamond between finger and thumb of my right hand and waved it for Elzevir to see. By stretching out my arm I could have placed it in the turnkey's hand, and was just going to do so when I caught his eyes for the second time that day, and something in them made me stop. There was a look in his face that brought back to me the memory of an autumn evening, when I sat in my aunt's parlour reading the book called The Arabian Nights, and how, in the story of the wonderful lamp, Aladdin's wicked uncle stands at the top of the stairs when the boy is coming up out of the underground cavern, and will not let him out unless he first gives up the treasure. But Aladdin refused to give up his lamp until he should stand safe on the ground again, because he guessed that if he did, his uncle would shut him up in the cavern and leave him to die there. And the look in the turnkey's eyes made me refuse to hand in the jewel till I was safe out of the well, for a horrible fear seized me that as soon as he had taken it from me, he meant to let me fall down and drown below. So when he reached down his hand and said, "Give me the treasure," I answered, "Pull me up, then. I cannot show it to you in the bucket." "Nay, lad," he said, cozening me, "'tis safer to give it me now, and have both hands free to help you getting out. These stones are wet and greasy, and you may chance to slip, and, having no hand to save you, fall back in the well." But I was not to be cheated, and said again sturdily, "No, you must pull me up first." Then he took to scowling, and cried in an angry tone, "Give me the treasure, I say, or it will be the worse for you." But Elzevir would not let him speak to me that way, and broke in roughly, "Let the boy up. He is sure-footed and will not slip. 'Tis his treasure, and he shall do with it as he likes, only that thou shalt have a third of it when we have sold it." Then he, "'Tis not his treasure, no, nor yours either, but mine, for it is in my well, and I've let you get it. Yet I'll give you a half share in it. But as for this boy, what is he to do with it? We'll give him a golden guinea. He'll be richly paid for his pains." "Tush!" cries Elzevir, "let us have no more fooling. This boy shall have his share, or I will know the reason why." "Ay, you shall know the reason fair enough," answers the turnkey. "'Tis because your name is Block, and there's a price of 50 upon your head and 20 upon this boy's. You thought to outwit me, and you are yourself outwitted. In here I have you in a trap, and neither leaves this room except with hands tied and bound for the gallows, unless I first have the jewels safe in my purse." On that I whipped the diamond back quick into the little parchment bag, and thrust both down snug into my breeches pocket, meaning to have a fight for it anyway before I let it go. And looking up again, I saw the turnkey's hand on the butt of his pistol, and cried, "Beware! Beware! He draws on you!" But before the words were out of his mouth, the turnkey had his weapon up, and levelled full at Elzevir. "Surrender!" he cries, "or I shoot you dead, and the 50 is mine." And neither giving time for answer, fires. Elzevir stood on the other side of the well-mouth, and it seemed the other could not miss him at such a distance, but as I blinked my eyes at the flash, I felt the bullet strike the iron chain to which I was holding, and saw that Elzevir was safe. The turnkey saw it too, and flinging away his pistol, sprang round the well, and was at Elzevir's throat before he knew whether he was hit or not. I've said that the turnkey was a tall, strong man, and 20 years the younger of the two, so doubtless when he made for Elzevir, he thought he would easily have him broken down and handcuffed, and then turn to me. But he reckoned without his host, for although Elzevir was the shorter and older man, he was wonderfully strong and seasoned as a salted thong. Then they hugged one another and began a terrible struggle, for Elzevir knew that he was wrestling for life, and I dare say the turnkey guessed that the stakes were much the same for him too. As soon as I saw what they were at, and that the bucket was safe fixed, I laid hold of the well chain, and climbed up it by swinging myself onto the top of the parapet, being eager to help Elzevir and get the turnkey gagged and bound while we made our escape. But before I was well on the firm ground again, I saw that little help of mine was needed, for the turnkey was flagging, and there was a look of anguish and desperate surprise upon his face, to find that the man he had thought to master so lightly was strong as a giant. They were swaying to and fro, and the jailer's grip was slackening, for his muscles were overwrought and tired. But Elzevir held him firm as a vice, and I saw from his eyes and the bearing of his body that he was gathering himself up to give his enemy a fall. Now I guessed that the fall he would use would be the Compton toss, for though I had never seen him give it, yet he was well known for a wrestler in his younger days, and the Compton toss was his most certain fall. I shall not explain the method of it, but those who have seen it used will know that 'tis a deadly fall, and he who lets himself get thrown that way, even upon grass, is seldom fit to wrestle another bout the same day. Still, 'tis a difficult fall to use, and perhaps Elzevir would never have been able to give it, had not the other at that moment taken one hand off the waist, and tried to make a clutch with it at the throat. But the only way of avoiding that fall, and indeed most others, is to keep both hands firm between hip and shoulder blade, and the moment Elzevir felt one hand off his back, he had the jailer off his feet, and gave him Compton's toss. I do not know whether Elzevir had been so taxed by the fierce struggle that he could not put his fullest force into the throw, or whether the other, being a very strong and heavy man, needed more to fling him. But so it was that instead of the turnkey going down straight as he should, with the back of his head on the floor, for that is the real damage of the toss, he must needs stagger backwards a pace or two, trying to regain his footing before he went over. It was those few staggering paces that ruined him, for with the last he came upon the stones close to the well-mouth, that had been made wet and slippery by continual spilling there of water. Then up flew his heels, and he fell backwards with all his weight. As soon as I saw how near the well-mouth he was got, I shouted out and ran to save him. But Elzevir saw it quicker than I, and springing forward, seized him by the belt just when he turned over. The parapet wall was very low, and caught the turnkey behind the knees as he staggered, tripping him over into the well-mouth. He gave a bitter cry, and there was a wrench on his face when he knew where he was come, and 'twas then Elzevir caught him by the belt. For a moment I thought he was saved, seeing Elzevir setting his body low back, with heels pressed firm against the parapet wall to stand the strain. Then the belt gave way at the fastening, and Elzevir fell sprawling on the floor, but the other went backwards down the well. I got to the parapet just as he fell head first into that black abyss. There was a second of silence, then a dreadful noise, like a coconut being broken on a pavement. For we once had coconuts in plenty at Moonfleet when the Batavia man came on the beach. Then a deep, echoing blow, where he rebounded and struck the wall again, and last of all the thud and thundering splash when he reached the water at the bottom. I held my breath for sheer horror, and listened to see if he would cry, though I knew at heart he would never cry again after that first sickening smash. But there was no sound or voice, except the moaning voices of the water eddies that I had heard before. Elzevir slung himself into the bucket. "You can handle the brake," he said to me. "Let me down quick into the well." I took the brake lever, lowering him as quickly as I durst, till I heard the bucket touch water at the bottom, and then stood by and listened. All was still, Yet I started once, and could not help looking round over my shoulder, for it seemed as if I was not alone in the well-house, and though I could see no one,